Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're setting up the lights, checking our camera angles, and diving straight into the cinematic, everyday reality of public recording. You know the drill. We've all seen them. The live streamers, the vloggers, the people treating the local sidewalk like it's their own personal movie set. But what happens when you, just an ordinary person trying to grab a coffee, suddenly become an unpaid extra in their production? Well, today, we're going to explore exactly what your legal rights are as a background bystander. Let's get into it. So picture this. It's a bright, beautiful day, the lighting is absolutely perfect, and you're just going about your life when, boom, you accidentally walk right into a vlogger's shot. You didn't ask to be on camera. You definitely didn't sign a release form. So can you just march up to them and force them to delete that footage right then and there? It's a super common, honestly kind of frustrating scenario, but as you'll see, the answer is way more complex than a simple yes or no. All right, scene one, caught in a background. Let's establish our opening wide shot here. Here's the setup. We have a guy, and he's simply walking to work. He's not doing anything weird. He's not causing a scene. He is literally just existing in public. And, incidentally, he ends up in the background of a YouTube street walk video. He's just an ordinary guy doing an ordinary thing, caught in someone else's frame. Keep this protagonist in mind, guys, because his perfectly normal morning commute is going to be our ultimate legal stress test for this whole explainer. Moving right along to scene two, recording versus publishing. Okay, let's really dive into this, because we absolutely need to understand the golden rule of our legal universe here. When we talk about camera rights, we are actually talking about two completely different things. On the left side, we have recording. That's the physical act of capturing the footage. But on the right, we have publishing, which is distributing that footage to the world online. Being okay with someone pointing a camera at you is absolutely not the same as consenting to be broadcast to millions of people. You have to separate the two in your mind. Which brings us to scene three, the global legal landscape. Let's zoom out for a second and look at how different parts of the world treat this exact scenario. Over in India, there is no blanket privacy ban if you're in a fully open public space. In the UK and the EU, recording is generally fine, but publishing, that falls strictly under GDPR because your identifiable face is considered personal data. And in the US, the First Amendment strongly protects public filming. But look at the baseline across the board here. No legal system completely bans simply pointing a camera in a fully open public space. Now, you might be wondering about this really interesting American concept called the right of publicity. Basically, it's a state law that stops the commercial use of your identifiable likeness without your consent. You might think, aha, this vlogger is making ad revenue on YouTube, so this totally applies, right? Actually, scratch that. Nope. Using someone commercially means putting them in a targeted ad or a product endorsement. Simply appearing in the background of a monetized vlog, that's not a commercial endorsement. So, unfortunately for our walking protagonist, this particular law doesn't bail him out. All right, let's look at scene four, the walking to work test. So, why does shouting delete that footage on the street completely fail legally? Let's break down why our guy's immediate case in India is so weak. First off, there's no voyeurism happening. He's just doing routine public stuff, nothing private. Second, there's no defamation because they aren't showing anything false or damaging about him. And what about that famous Puttaswamy ruling? You know, the one that made privacy a fundamental right in India? Well, that primarily shields citizens against the government, not really as a ready-made weapon against some random private vlogger. He's not suffering any active harm, which kind of strips away all his legal tools. But wait, here comes a massive plot twist. Have you heard of the Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023? Under this act, his face is considered personal data, and the vlogger is a data fiduciary. He should be fully protected, right? Well, look at the timeline. Right now, in August 2026, that statutory right to erasure is basically an unenforceable phantom. The actual sections that give you the power to force a vlogger to delete your data, those don't come into force until May 13, 2027. So for today, it's a shield made of glass. Okay, let's shift the focus for a second. What if our protagonist walking down the street was a woman? Does the law change? Well, the baseline rules of recording in public still apply equally, meaning you still don't need consent just to capture footage on a public street. However, the legal framework in India introduces some extra layers and statutory triggers based specifically on gender. So in India, women actually have specific extra statutory levers. Let's say the vlogger's framing, their commentary, or maybe their thumbnail sexualizes her. Well, BNS Section 79 kicks in for insulting modesty, even if she's fully clothed just walking along. And if a creator is repeatedly tracking her specifically, that's BNS Section 78 for stalking. These are textually gender-specific in India. It's actually a fascinating contrast to the UK, which utilizes a totally gender-neutral upskirting and voyeurism law that protects anyone, regardless of gender. It's really interesting seeing different legislative philosophies trying to solve the exact same modern problem. So we know that just standing in public and incidentally catching people in the background is legal. But what flips the script here? What turns the camera from a passive observer into a weapon and crosses the line so that the recording itself becomes unlawful territory? These are what I call the dark side triggers, the things that completely shatter the whole incidental background defense. Number 1, targeted following or tracking. If they aren't just capturing the street vibe, but tracking you specifically, that's crossing into stalking. Number 2, filming into a private space. Look, just because a vlogger is standing on a public street does not give them the right to zoom their lens through your car window or into your house. And number 3, if the recording is used to harass, threaten, or extort you. At that point, the use of the footage becomes the actual offense. Okay, let's look at Scene 5, your practical action plan. Let's move to our cinematic resolution and give you the tools you actually need for your everyday life. We've ranked these by what's most usable today. Step 1, just make a direct request to the creator. It has literally no legal force, but it's often the fastest way to handle it. Step 2, a platform privacy complaint. This is your secret weapon. And step 3, legal or police action. But hey, save this energy only for when those specific unlawful triggers we just talked about are actually happening. Honestly, practical platform tools beat slow legal battles every single time. 48, that is your magic number right there. If you end up in a YouTube video and you file a privacy complaint stating that you are uniquely identifiable and didn't consent, YouTube looks at the context and typically gives the creator roughly 48 hours to blur your face or edit the clip before the platform itself steps in. This is a contractual remedy against the platform, not a court-enforceable legal right. But let me tell you, it is exactly what gets faces blurred in practice right now. It's a real game changer. So here is your on-set survival guide for dealing with cameras out in the wild. In the moment, just ask nicely to be cut out, turn away, cover your face, or simply step out of the frame. Nobody can force you to stay visible. But, crucially, do not become that person demanding on-the-spot deletion of raw footage. As we've learned today, you have almost zero legal right to demand the deletion of raw, unpublished footage taken from a public street. Keep your cool and just handle it in post-production. Well, we've covered the baseline rules, the plot twists, and your practical tools. But I want to leave you with this final crazy thought. By May 13th, 2027, your face becomes fully protected enforceable data under the DPDP Act in India. How is the entire industry of public vloggers and street photographers going to survive when literally every single background bystander can legally demand data erasure? Are the streets going to be completely empty of cameras, or will these platforms have to invent some crazy new AI to instantly blur the whole world? It's a massive cliffhanger for digital privacy, for sure, and one we're going to be watching very closely. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.